Hello everyone and welcome to CornerTwist. This is the first video of many that I'm going to be releasing on it's going to be over a long period of time. And the focus of the series is going to be teaching you guys how to solve the Rubik's Cube. But not only that, no, that wouldn't be good enough for me. You see, I want to teach you guys how to do it as fast as possible. Sub 20 to be exact. I want to teach you guys how to be sub 20 as fast as possible. But Ben, why not faster than sub 20? It's as fast as I can go, okay? These videos will be in a classroom style where I'll be breaking down individual subjects in clumps of video that I'm going to be releasing at separate times. I'm going to give you guys a lot of time in between to perfect what I'm going to be talking about, or at least get acquainted with. And bit by bit, I'm going to break down everything that I know that I've learned over the years that has helped me become sub 20. So that way eventually you guys will be that too. In this first video, I'm going to be going over the very fundamentals of the cube, like the layers, the piece types, relativity, all that stuff that you need to know to get started on a cube, and then we're going to break off into the beginner's method. But yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to in this intro, so I don't want to keep dragging this on. Let's get into it. Starting from the very beginning, the fundamentals, there are 8 layers on a cube. You know what, I may need to make this a little closer for you guys. These 8 layers consist of the left layer, which is here, the right layer, the U layer, which is up, the D layer for down, the B layer for back, the F layer for front, the M layer for middle, and then the S layer for side. The very next thing to fundamentally understand about the cube is that there are corner pieces which have 3 colors on them, such as this piece. You have edge pieces which only have 2 pieces on them, such as this piece. And then you have center pieces, which are these little center caps right here. Now the thing about corner pieces and edge pieces is that they're going to be moving around everywhere around the cube. But these center caps right here, they're never going to move, no matter how much you turn all the layers. And that's important to know because these same colors will be across from each other all the time, 100% of the time. So this orange will always be across from the red, this green will always be across from the blue, and this yellow will always be across from the white. This is what we're going to call relativity. These pieces are always going to be relative to each other. So in the method that I use, it's called CFOP, and it's an acronym which stands for cross, first 2 layers, orientation of the top layer, and then permutation of the top layer. Now all that sounds fancy, but basically you're going to be starting off with step 1, which is the cross. And basically all we're doing for the cross is picking one color to start out with, and then we're going to be making a cross shape across the bottom of it. Now in order to make a correct cross, all the edges need to be connected to the center caps. So as you can see here, the red edge piece is connected to the red center cap. The white is connected to the white center cap, and that can be said for all the other colors as well. Now this first step is pretty intuitive. You're going to have to figure it out yourself, but there are some good tips to help you get started. Now the easiest way to make this cross isn't actually making the cross around its own color at first, like we just did. Instead, we're going to be doing what's called the daisy method, which is basically putting the color that you're starting on the opposite side of the cube. Now remember what I talked about before, relativity. The yellow is always going to be across from the white, so that is where we're going to be beginning our cross. So once we have one cross piece in like this, we're going to insert another one like this, and then we're going to look around, find another one of our cross pieces, and now we have one more, and it's down here. And we're going to basically create this daisy looking shape. Now from here, we're going to line up the colors and insert them like this. Now if you're confused about how I'm inserting this, this is basically a left side rotation just twice. So that takes this one and brings it down here. It can also be done from the front facing position like this, where the piece is right here and you're taking the F layer, which is right here, and twisting it down. You may notice that sometimes when you're making your daisy cross, that sometimes you get this little case right here. And this may seem annoying at first, as you can't just bring it up into the top layer because it's like swapped. What you do with this is you're going to move it down out of the way, and then instead of bringing it up the way that it just came from, you're going to move it up on the other side like this. And again, to reiterate, you want to make sure that all your colors are matching the edges to the center caps, and then you slide it down. The reason you don't do it the other way like this is because you would end up with a cross that's off-centered, and that's the whole point of making the daisy cross, is so that way you can center up your edge pieces with the center caps. Okay, moving along, there is a term that you're going to have to get familiar with. It is called a trigger. A trigger is basically an algorithm. If you're not familiar with algorithms, it is basically a sequence of moves that you make across a cube that you do every single time. For example, this short algorithm, or trigger, is going to look like this. This is going to be referred to as the righty or lefty alg, and it's going to be pivotal for learning the F2L step. Now these letters are going to look like gibberish to you if you don't know what's going on. Now that you know what algorithms are, we're going to learn how. Now that you know what algorithms are, I cannot say that word. Algorithms. Now that you know what algorithms are, we're going to learn how to read them. Okay, so first of all, what do the letters mean? If I were to throw a U up on the screen, it would mean to turn the up layer clockwise, this. Now if I were to throw an F up on the screen, you would turn the F layer, like this, clockwise. And that's the same for the sides as well. So if I gave you an R, you would turn it right side clockwise. And then same with the left side. If you're not sure which way is clockwise, face that side and then turn it. So from this angle it would be like this. Now what if you get the little apostrophe thing that comes after the letter sometimes? That is what is called a prime, and we put that after letters to indicate that you turn counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So F apostrophe is F prime, and you would turn the F layer like this. If there is a number inserted after a letter, that means that you would turn it that many times. So R2, for example, would just be right side twice. And whenever you're turning twice, it usually doesn't matter which way you turn, either clockwise or counterclockwise, because it will always end up in the same place anyway. In a couple of our algorithms, we are going to see lowercase letters. These lowercase letters indicate what is known as a wide turn, which, if I gave you a lowercase r, it would look like this. You're essentially taking the right layer along with the middle slice here and turning them both. So a wide L would look like this. So the premise behind F2L is creating pairs like this that can be inserted in between their own colors to form little columns like this. Whenever you do this across every side of the cube, you will end up with 2 layers solved. Thus, F2L, first 2 layers. How did I achieve this? Well, first we're going to look at the corner pieces. A corner piece, like I said before, has 3 colors on it, and is on the corners of the cube. And you're going to be looking at the colors. Obviously, the most important one is the base color, the one that you started your cross on. Whenever you find this color, there will be 2 other colors connected to it, and those colors will dictate where it needs to go on the cube. So in this example, we have red, green, and white. Now depending on which side the white is facing, left or right, you're going to be putting it facing the left side, like in this case, or if you had one like this, you would put it on this side of the cube, facing right. The reason for this is that we're going to be using our triggers to insert this piece in between the colors that are on it. So green is here, and red is here, and of course the white is on the bottom. So this piece is going to fit down right in between all 3 of these. So in order to get this piece here, we're going to use that short trigger that I mentioned before. Now that short trigger again looks like this. Now from here we have this corner in, we have this corner in, and we're going to look for another one. Right off the bat we see this one and this one. So this one first, so I'm just going to look at the other 2 colors on it. So I've got green and orange. So I'm going to line up this orange to the orange, and that is where I'm going to begin the algorithm. And that inserts it right here. Now in this case, I look for my white again. It's right here, and the other 2 colors on it are red and blue. So I need to line up the blue with the blue, and then I'm going to do my righty algorithm since it's on the right side of the cube. So look like this. Now what do you do if the white is facing upwards? well, you're going to have it over top of its column that's going to go into. So you've got the red, blue, and white, so it's going to go right in this slot here. You're going to do the righty alg 3 times, and that inserts it. You could also run into something like this, where the corner piece is in the correct column, but it's not oriented the right way. So the way you deal with this one is whether or not it's on the right or left side. In this case, it's on the right side, facing me. You're going to do the righty alg like this, and that brings it up to a upwards facing position where you're just going to do what I showed previously. And that inserts. Okay, so from this position, we have all 4 of our corners slotted in, and we've got one column that just kind of happened to be here. Now our goal is to have all of our columns look like this one, where both of the pieces are solved. So how do we replicate this to these? Well, just like our corner pieces, our edge pieces are going to have 2 colors also, but they're not going to have the base color on them, since they only have 2. So looking at this one, it has red and green, and if we look around here, there are our centerpieces. So what you do is you line up the one that's on its side to one of the colors. So in this case, green would go over top of green, and it's going to get slotted in right here. So whichever way it needs to get slotted in, you're going to push it away from it like this. And then you're going to do the lefty alg. If it's slotted off to the right like this, you're going to do your lefty alg like this. And what this does is it basically sets these 2 up. And then you're going to go from here and rotate and do this short trigger. Next up, you need to find another piece. So this one has red and blue on it. You're going to bring it over so that way it matches the color that's on its side to its center cap. Just like we did last time, we're going to move this out of the way, but we need to move it this way this time because it's going in here, and you always move it away from the column that's going into. So we do that, and then we need to do our righty alg since this column is on the right side of us now. So do our righty alg, and then again that sets up this pair. Rotate, and then do the short trigger, and that solves it. Now we've only got one more. We rotate to see our last edge piece, and here it is. It's got green and orange, so we need to move this edge piece over top of its color, and then the column that it goes into is this one because again, green and orange, and you're going to move it away from that column, and whatever side the column's on, the left side, we're going to do our lefty alg. So we do it, these 2 get set up, and then you insert. So an issue that you may run into is that one of your columns will have the corner piece filled, but then the edge piece is in it, but not oriented the correct way. What do you do here? Well, we pretend that this edge piece right here that's above our center cap looking at us is the piece that we're going to be inserting here. So we just move it off to the side like this. We do our lefty alg, and then we pair these 2 up. Now, even though this wasn't the correct piece, we slotted it in so that we can move this piece that was in there out. And now we can just proceed like normal. We move it away from the column, and then now we do our lefty alg. Pairs it up, and then we rotate and do our short trigger. Once you have every column filled, you are essentially done with the cross and F2L. We're halfway done with the cube, and from here it is basically going to be a memorization of algorithms. So just like those triggers that we learned earlier, we're going to be learning algorithms, which are basically extended versions of those. So for OLL, the orientation of the last layer, we're going to be learning 3 different algorithms, and you're going to use one depending on which pattern you get on the top. So the first one goes F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. The next one is going to be F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Now with those 2 algs in mind, we're going to be looking at our patterns on the top, and all you need to be focusing on right now are the edge pieces on the top, more particularly looking for yellow squares. So in this particular case, we're going to be noticing that there are no yellows besides these three. And again, we're not looking at these because they're corner pieces. We're only paying attention to the edges. When there are no yellows on these edge pieces, then you just need to do one of the previously mentioned algorithms. So for example, I would do this one, and then it would give me one of the other two patterns. So this first pattern is going to be what I call an arrow case. So we're not going to be looking at these corner pieces. We're going to be ignoring them completely and only focusing on the edge pieces. So you're going to have one of four possibilities. The first one being this arrow case, this line case, the dot case, and the cross case. Now our goal is to get to the cross case, but if you start out with an arrow case, you just need to do the first algorithm that I mentioned. So you go F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime, and that will give you a cross case. Now if you start out with a line case like this, then you need to do the other algorithm. So F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, and that will give you a cross. When you have successfully gotten a cross case on the top, you're going to be looking for 8 different possible patterns on the top. Each one of these different pattern combinations will require a different algorithm to solve. I'm going to put each of those patterns here. So when you're referring to this chart, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, the yellow lines that you see drawn in front of the diagram, they're going to be showcasing these. We're using the yellow on the outsides of the cube in the diagram to showcase where these yellow pieces are on the side of the actual cube. Next, before you start the algorithm, it matters how you hold the cube. Now on the diagram it says hold in the front. Now it doesn't mean hold facing this side, it means hold facing this side. So if it were me solving this case, I would hold this side towards myself with the back facing you guys, and then I would solve. I hope it's also obvious that I'm not just facing this side because it's orange. This can be any one of these colors. So in this particular example, I look at obviously the cross, but then the pattern on the sides. So in this example, we have the yellow facing out at us, and then the 2 headlights on the side, and then the one on the back. So for this one, I would do this algorithm. And then that will complete the yellow on the top, thus orienting it. Next up, we're going to be looking for what are referred to as headlights, which are 2 matching pieces on one side of the cube, like this. Once you find your headlights, you're going to match them up to their color and then have them face the back of the cube. Once you're there, you're going to input this algorithm. And that will give you this case. Now you may be scratching your head if you did not get headlights. One thing to note is that this is considered headlights, so you could put this whole bar on the back like this and do the algorithm and you'll come out with the same thing. Or you may come across a case where you don't get any headlights at all. In this scenario, just pretend that you have headlights on the back, go ahead and put in that algorithm, and then you will get headlights somewhere on the cube. Once you find them, you have them on the back, and then just do the algorithm again, and you'll get to where you need to be. Once we get to this last step, there are 2 different algorithms that can be used, and the one that you will use will be depending on which way these middle squares are going to be going. And what I mean by that is, you see this blue needs to come hop to this square, and then this red needs to come hop to this square. They are moving in a flow that's counterclockwise. You could get the other one, which would be this one, where the blue needs to hop here, and then the orange needs to hop over here. This pattern is going clockwise. So you'd use your clockwise algorithm to solve this one. And if you did get the counterclockwise version, then you would put that one in. And that will complete your cube. On your last step, you may have noticed that your pattern didn't quite add up with mine. If you got something like this, where you have 4 sets of headlights instead of 3 sets of headlights and a bar, just like in the third step, pretend that you have a bar on one of the sides and put in one of the 2 counterclockwise or clockwise algorithms. So just do this, and then you will get a bar and 3 sets of headlights. And there you guys have it. That is definitively how you solve a Rubik's Cube. Congratulations, you are now sub 20. Haha, just kidding. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is the very beginner basics of how to solve a cube, and in my future videos I'm going to actually be breaking down how to get faster at it. So if that is something you're interested in, consider subscribing and keep up with my series, and that's basically it.